Today I'm going to show you how to become almost immortal from very early on in Immortal Shell 2 and some of the best items to help you with that starting up, especially now since many of the classes and their abilities have been nerfed into the ground after the day 1 patch to the point that almost every ranking out there is now virtually obsolete. So let's jump right in, and as always, a sub to the channel would be really awesome. And if you did not check his stash yet, I highly encourage you to pay a visit to the merchant back at Marrow Keep once again, because eventually he's going to sell 2 very strong tar stones, one of which is going to be the unwieldy stone, and this kind of bakes 2 abilities into one. One is that it provides you a charge heavy attack, so now you can hold down the heavy attack button to charge it, and it's going to unleash a much stronger effect. But this is also going to have basically the parasitic stone baked into it, as every enemy you defeat with the charged heavy will now provide you stacks of leech, which basically increases your maximum HP. So as you continue to play the game and gain those stacks of leech, as you take down the enemies with a heavy attack that deals high damage, you're going to literally become more and more unkillable. Give it a go. There's also a version that gives you extra critical damage for your charged light attack instead. They both cost resolve, but it's totally worth it, and at level 3 that cost will actually decrease. Now from here we're aiming for pseudo immortality, and we can achieve that from very early on by just combining one simple early item with one very simple passive skill. And that's going to be the combo between Arbiter's Prize, which provides us Blood Curse Infusion, and then adding, Grau's Heartwork passive skill in the mix, literally the first one on the line. And this is going to, at level 3, if you max it out, let you completely replenish all of your revered hearts whenever Grau inflicts Blood Curse. Well, that chance is only 30% on paper, but in real conditions it triggers so often that it's practically there all the time. So if you max this out, and eventually you will even have like 8 hearts to consume, you can jump from 0 hearts to 8 literally in one Blood Curse. That's how crazy it gets. So just to show you an example against this guy right here, I basically am left without any of those hearts. So if I were to go ahead and trigger a Blood Curse against it, as you can see, from 0 all the way to 8 out of 8. Which, by the way, as you will see later in the video, we can now consume, not just to heal, but to buff ourselves for 200% damage, remove any of our ailments. So we're gonna go over the build in just a little bit once we complete the item section. By the way, Arbiter's Prize is going to be literally the first drop from the boss encounter. Right next to it was Overlook, the same boss we had in the demo, defeated, and that's pretty self-explanatory. And so is with the Heartwork, you only need like 6 or 8 glimpses to fully unlock it. Now from this point on, we're also going to grab the Auspicious Stone. This is just going to provide us with some extra melee critical hit. We really need that, and it's an easy acquisition early once we hit the Mushroom Village. By the way, if you want to find which of the candles to open, it's basically this route. On the platform is the first, second is a bit further back over here, with the third and final one to the left side here behind this house with the couple of hag enemies. Once you activate them and go back, this is going to give you Auspicious Stone at max level 3. That's a plus 18% to critical chance. Critical hits with some of our weapons will be extremely strong. Next, we're going to unlock Grau, as well as a very strong item to make him even stronger than he normally is. For this, we're going to need to head over to the one-legged wolf tavern, which is on this side of the map. I already covered how to find every single shell in the game in a previous video, so totally check that out so we can skip a little bit of time and just focus on the build itself. So once you spoke to Grau and he asks you to retrieve the Vatra heart for him, we're gonna exit that one-legged tavern and then keep it to the right side, going up these bridges up until eventually at the end of this lone path, we're gonna find a jumping gate. This is going to bring us to the Temple of Vatra nearby, but before we actually get to the top, I highly encourage you to go to the left side over here in the temple area. There's a very strong item to retrieve. Here are, by the way, the candles to open up. First, we're going to start counterclockwise. Second is going to be a little bit further towards the middle section. And finally, turning around back, it should be very close to the stairs. Go up, back, and this is going to give you the Berserker Stone. This is going to massively boost your melee damage whenever you drop to low enough HP. At full max out, you're going to get a 65% damage increase when you're 50% or lower HP, which is going to happen quite a bit, and Grau has plenty of health to even linger at 50% HP. Then you can retrieve the Vatra heart, bring it back to Grau, and now he's also going to be your unlockable class. He's now going to be our main from this point on. Now from here we're going to have two sets of items depending what type of weapon we use, either the regular great axe or the axe and dagger. So first we're going to focus on the great axe. So starting from the one-legged wolf, what we're going to be doing is backtrack a little bit, go back to the same bridge area again, but now go upwards on this left side path, all the way until eventually we find some wall ruins. Take down the enemy and once again interact with the noxious bag you see here on the side of the wall, which is going to transport you right below the Citadel of Penance. From here, we're gonna exit, take down the enemy, and keep it to the left side. Go in circles up until eventually you reach this jumping platform near a troll. Jump up, and then once again keep it to the left, behind these walls, and here you're going to find your next item, which is going to be the Grudge Stone. This is going to make our melee hits guarantee critical hit every 10, 7, and eventually 5 attacks. But with a great axe like ours, that's going to literally slash off more than half of enemies' HPs, maybe even more. So this is like one of the best for the great axe we're going to be using. There's also, by the way, a beacon nearby you can use for saving. Now we also need some extra defenses, so from the previously mentioned chest, we're going to go past the archway and then keep it to the right side. Again, we're going to follow this route until we eventually reach this gate. You will need to open it up, but our goal sits right at the end of this path with the 4 enemies. Dispatch them however you see fit, and if you open that up, that's going to give you the Bulwark Stone. Now, unfortunately, after day 1 patch, this has been quite severely nerfed, and now it only applies that damage mitigation after you have already taken down a target, but it's still very good because you're going to be doing that all the time, and having like an extra 25% damage reduction when maxed out is still very potent. Now, in case you're instead going with Axe and Dagger and want a lot more attacks, then the next item is going to be Duality Stone. I know a lot of you guys have been asking a video guide on this, and it's also going to be at the Ravaged Tomb, but let me show you the quickest route from the beginning all the way there. So from the previously mentioned chest that we opened up with the Bulwark, from that point on, we're going to turn back a little bit and backtrack at the beginning of the bridge. Here, we're gonna look out for the right side and jump on the bridge below. Be careful so that you don't reach the gap basically and die. From here, we're going to aim towards the Desolate Peak and basically make our way across the island to the other jump gates at the other end. Now, if in the shell guide we jumped to the left side to retrieve Smurf from nearby, in this version we're gonna jump to the right side instead, on the upper platform basically, and we're going to continue to press forward all the way deeper into the castle. Eventually, we're going to reach sort of this like arena with a bonfire and also with a gate that we can quickly open up. If you enter inside and then quickly turn to the right, you should drop inside of the Ravaged Tomb. This is probably one of the strongest in the game to have, simply because Axe and Dagger as well as the Katana are 2 of the strongest weapons in the game, but specifically this is going to double or strike twice with both the Katanas and with the light attacks of the Axe and Dagger. So just to show you the difference, if I were to use it the regular way, I only perform 1 attack per button input, so 3 in the whole chain. However, if I have that on fully maxed out, it's basically going to be 6 attacks by 3 button inputs. So yeah, much higher damage, virtually doubling your DPS if not more. Plus, of course, also a much quicker bleed build up. Yeah, especially if you're using with the Axe and Dagger, it works extremely well. Now, in case you want to default back to something like the Great Axe, but still want some strong infusions, then the best earliest option is going to be the Inflamed Claw Stone, which works perfectly for it, giving you burn stacks. So in this case, here's what we're going to be doing. Teleport back at the Black Ridge Pass, which is one of the first we visited when we retrieved Proxima. From this point on, instead of going towards Proxima, we're going to go to the right and up this path, which you likely have to clear initially of its corruption. This will eventually bring you to the Black Ridge Hamlet. Keep it in the middle of the road up until eventually you reach this location with the well, and if you interact with it, it's going to bring you inside of the holding cells. This is, by the way, one of the 2 entrances, with the other one being right here, and you can also use that as an exit to more easily reach the castle as well. But here's what you need to pay attention to inside. So inside, we're going to make our way deeper in the dungeon, following my path without actually interacting with any of the enemies as of yet. we're going to make our way towards the nearby elevator and make our way downwards. There will be a lot of enemies in the area with a ton of traps as well, so mind your steps. But basically, this is the door we have to open up. It's already open for me because I've been here. But if you also want to retrieve the key, it's going to be just a little bit deeper in the same location. Basically inside of this shack behind this wall that we can enter through, the left side. If you go here, it should be on one of these counters. So here's a quick footage of me retrieving it, giving me the feeding room key. From this point on, we're free to go back to the door, open it up, and this is now going to give you access to a pretty significant boss encounter against two rabid Grishas. It may seem overwhelming at first, but don't fret, both of them have pretty low HP, so it's only that they constantly bombard you with attacks, but if you're on your toes and know how to parry, it shouldn't be too difficult. And this is also going to give you two of those Grisha items that let you summon them even more often when you put it in that secondary slot. More on that in just a little bit. Now, if you defeat that, you're going to get the Inflamed Clawstone. This exclusively works for the great attacks, so if you want burn damage on the targets, it's really great, deals some extra damage over time, but also sets them on fire, meaning that they kind of get disabled a little bit. And it's excellent against any of the three enemies. And if you defeat these Grishas as well, you should get the Grisha remnants on top. So now you should have about 4 with the ones we also got from the Perfect Start guide, maybe even more than that. So now you're going to have even more chances at summoning the Grishas with your melee attack. Here are some extra good to have items from early on equipped in the place where you retrieve Teal's body. If you go behind this shack, you should find the wounding stone. This is going to work really well if you want to add some extra damage in the mix from your sidearms. Since we use an onslaught of melee attacks anyway, that's going to increase perforation stacks on targets very quickly, so you can use a sidearm like the shotgun to unleash a high amount of burst damage on them. Very good early on against some of the boss encounters. Also back at the trial right next to the first Widow's Overlook waypoint in the open world, you can also complete the trial to get the Retribution Stone. This has also been unfortunately nerfed quite severely. Now it only increases riposte damage by 20% once you max it out compared to the 50 from before, but it's still a nice increase in damage since you are going to do quite a bit of riposting all the time. So dealing more damage to the enemy's HP will help in long term. Now, if you want to see my full build that I'm running with Grau, that basically gives us almost like complete immortality, especially as you progress, this is basically it right here. Now, in the early stages, I mentioned we will go with the Heart Work because it goes so well with the Blood Curse mechanic. This only works, by the way, if you're using the Axe and Dagger plus the Blood Curse Infusion Stone. Otherwise, if you're going with the axe instead, I recommend going with the Bloodthirst. However, keep in mind that this is only going to work once you defeat an enemy, whereas the Heart Work can even trigger in the middle of a boss fight. So eventually you may want to hold off on that as well. On the second line, I went with the Harvest. This is just going to make our revered hearts increase their stacks all the way up to 8 and also increase the additional healing we get from it. So as we spam it and we can generate so many, we literally cannot die. We just get to heal so much of our HP in the middle of combat that it literally doesn't even matter. That's why I said in the beginning that the meta has shifted quite a lot since before the day 1 patch came out, because a lot of stuff was nerfed, but Grau remains about the same as he always was. Also, we're gonna go with Bloodlust. This is just going to make the revered hearts whenever we consume them to increase our next melee attack damage by 200%, and also maybe go for level 2. 50% chance to cure all negative conditions. There are many poisonous enemies, so this helps a lot with that. You don't need the warp stacks here. Warp only gives you some weapon attack speed, but unless you're going with the dual daggers and axes, or well, the Exotana, you don't need that. If you do go with that and can spare the points, it may be worth it to go with the warp stacks if you are using a dual wield. And finally, we're going with the Revered Heart Devourer. This is going to just make it so that whenever we're full on Revered Hearts, we gain additional resolve generation from kills and also a lot more HP restore. So I can literally walk with 8 hearts, not needing to consume them, because I'm constantly generating even more resolve and even more health as I'm taking down targets. To the point that with enough damage and enough enemies nearby, you can more than make up all the damage that they dealt against you, but more so in the later stages of the game, so not really in the early ones. Other points that can help here are Heartless, 1 point in it just to make Staggering Blow instantly take down small and medium targets, which means instantly generating a heart out of them, and maybe 1 point into Bloodthirst anyway, just so that in case the heart work fails to trigger from blood curses, this one at the very least provides some extra well, hearts generation via taking down targets the regular way. But of course, this is a lot longer term and likely a build that you're going to achieve around level 50. And that's about it with the video. Totally check out the other one I covered, how to unlock all of the shells in the first couple of hours of playing, and also how to have the perfect start, which also covers a few other items you can get even before these. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.